Okay.
Not her husband.
I'd like to call the Blackstone Millville Regional School Committee meeting for Tuesday, June 14th, 2016 to order. Could you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance?
They do know.
Pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. I always feel like I need to say amen.
Okay, we'll start with introductions to members.
Oh, geez, there's no bill. Jane Reggio, Millville.
Georgette Jarrett, Blackstone.
Jack Keefe, student representative.
Brittany Dwyer, student representative.
Joanne Watson, Blackstone.
Steve Tringali, Millville.
Tara Larkin, Millville.
And Wendy Greenstein, Blackstone.
Alan Himmelberger, Superintendent.
Dave Thompson, Assistant Superintendent.
Okay, public forum. Okay, report of the student representatives.
So we've had a pretty lax couple weeks at school as everything's winding down. Things are ending, clubs are ending, sports are shifting to a closed point at the end of the school year. One of the things we have been active in the last 2 weeks is the one school, one book thing that we do at the end of every year, which is the decision that we make regarding the book we're going to be reading for the summer, as every class and teacher member of the school, so to say, is reading the same book moving into the high school. This year we were given the option to vote, actually, directly on the book we wanted to read. We were given 4 options that were suggested by teachers or Mr. Dudek, which were Ready Player One by Ernest Cline, Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell, I Am Malala by Malala Yousafzai, and Never Fall Down by Patricia McCormick, and 2 people voted for another book, which wasn't really specified. It ended up 99 votes for Ready Player One, 92 for Eleanor and Park, 46 for I Am Malala, and 22 for Never Fall Down. And it was decided that because the voting was so close, 99 to 92 on the top 2 voted books, that both would be options for the summer. And the decision was that it would be changed to one school, one theme after that. But it was nice to have a say, even if in the end it was divided and a choice was given.
So Jack, can you say just the top 2 again?
That was Ready Player One by Ernest Cline and Eleanor and Park by Rainbow Rowell.
And what is the theme?
The theme, I think, is 80s. But it's
Back
not
in the
clear
day.
yet.
Also coming of age.
What is it?
It's also like the main theme is like coming of age and stuff like that.
Oh, okay. I missed that part.
All right, so lately we've had class elections. On Wednesday, June 8th, we used a different form of picking the candidates this year. So we had a polling method, which is on Google, so it saves paper. And that way people can vote during lunches, and we made videos so people watched them that morning during advisory, and it seemed to be pretty successful. For the votes, obviously we don't have the freshmen yet. They'll be voting for their class officers in September. The sophomores, we had President Cameron Sarandolo, Vice President Elizabeth Volpe, Secretary Haley Gervais, Public Relations Megan Broder, Historian Claire Collins, Treasurer Michaela Martinelli. And for juniors, you have President Justin Keys, Vice President Taylor McNamara, Secretary Heather Milliken, Treasurer Emily Labrie, Historian Haley Carroll, and Public Relation Isabel Deebs. And then for senior class officers, we have President Colin Bisbee, Vice President Brendan Theroux, we have Secretary Wasim Awad, Treasurer Julia House, Historian is Tim Spratt, and I am Public Relations. So the voting seemed to work very successfully this year.
Another event we had was the AP Initiative meeting, which is just a yearly meeting for all the students who are taking or prospectively taking AP classes in the next school year. It's really just an informative meeting, and you get the paper you have to sign off on, which is kind of like the honor code for AP classes that you're willing to take and do the workload, and it's expected that it'll be a very independent learning experience. The only change from last year was that Saturday sessions are going to be mandatory now, but that's about it.
How was the turnout for that meeting?
For the AP, I actually didn't get to go myself because I had a test to take, and so I was forced to skip it, unfortunately.
There was a lot. There was
a lot?
probably at least 80 people.
Wow.
That's good.
Yeah. So this past week, and well, most of next week, we had a penny war, and that was held by the National Honor Society, and it was against faculty and all the 3 grades. And the proceeds were donated to a student battling an inoperable brain tumor for the past few years. And she also has a GoFundMe page that you can find probably on social media if you haven't seen it already. The turnout was incredibly successful. I was helping bring out the jugs outside, and it was pretty difficult. They had 2 jugs for every class because they were so overflowing. So last I heard, it was over 800. I think they were still counting at that point. So it was a great turnout.
And lastly, there was the sophomore ring banquet where they went and got their class rings they ordered a while back. It was a simple event, but fun for them, I'm sure. They got their rings in a nice ceremony, and they had a bunch of pizza, and everybody took pictures. All had a great time. Will remember getting their class rings the same way I did. I know I had fun at mine. I can only assume they had fun at theirs.
Great. Questions from the committee? Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good meeting.
Enjoy your
Yes,
summer.
Enjoy your summer.
Thank you.
And read both books. Because we'll be quizzing you on it at the first meeting in the fall.
Oh, boy.
Well, it doesn't matter. Read both. Read
Wear
both.
sunscreen.
Yes. Okay, moving right along, we are going to look at consent agenda A. We're looking for a motion to approve consent agenda A. We could do it warrants, minutes of the meeting for May 26th and June 1st, or we can do it all together.
Just move consent, I make a motion to move consent agenda A.
Motion made by Jane, is there a second? Second. Second by Tara. Discussion? All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Nays? The ayes have it. We're going to go a little bit out of order today because we have a guest speaker, and we'd like to move the report of the assistant superintendent up. So we are going to now go under the report of the superintendent, discussion of transportation contract, and Richard Labrie. Welcome.
Is this on?
Yes,
It should
you
be.
can't hear it, but it's on.
Should I just start?
Yeah.
If I could just give a brief background. When Mrs. Cobb was down at the Business Managers Conference, she sat with Mr. Labrie and came back and said that she met someone who's very knowledgeable in public school transportation. And I said, I think I know who you're talking about, as Mr. Labrie and I have known each other for a few years in a couple of other roles. And when Wen and Rich came to the office, the amount of knowledge that he has is just exactly what we need as we are looking to review our transportation contract. And so I welcome him and thank you for making the drive and appreciate your time and expertise for the committee. So
My
welcome.
pleasure. Let me start by telling you who I am, the paradigm that I come from, and then I can talk about your contract and your specifications. I'm a retired collaborative director. I ran the Lower Pioneer Valley Educational Collaborative for the better part of 25 years. We were the largest and most multi-purpose of the collaboratives in the state. Among other things that we did school transportation. And over the course of a 10-year period, we acquired all of the school bus contracts for our 7-member districts. And so our enterprise was the largest publicly owned school bus enterprise in the state. We were running about 275 buses for our districts. We did both their regular transportation, their in-district special ed, their out-of-district special ed, athletics and field trips. We did it all. And over the course of building the transportation enterprise, I gained a lot of experience in working with contractors, in looking at how contractors cost their contracts and how to become more efficient. And the reason that collaboratives are in business is because they're efficient, and ostensibly they're there to help school districts provide quality services and to save money. We were one of the first districts to do multi-district routing and scheduling and cost sharing. We became a model for the state. My first project when I was retired was for the Department of Education to replicate what we were doing in out-of-district special education to help them do it statewide. I did the 4 counties in Western Mass, roughly 60 school districts, and that was like 8 years ago, and the program is still running and running strong. Since then, I've been involved in consulting, primarily with school transportation. I've been all over the country. I've probably done 300 school districts. I was retained by the state of Rhode Island to set up their out-of-district special ed transportation. I was there for almost 3 years. I've done a number of projects in terms of efficiency studies to help districts have their transportation run more efficiently. And what that means is more efficiently means fewer buses to provide safe and efficient transportation. We also do a lot of routing and scheduling and helping school districts to reconfigure. We do school reconfiguration, looking at bell schedules and reconfiguring school districts and balancing elementary loads between schools. We also do a lot with Medicaid reimbursement. It's one of the programs that I started at the Lower Pioneer Valley, and they're now doing Medicaid reimbursement for about 60 school districts. And so that's kind of where I come from, is looking and working with school districts to look at what they're doing, look at what their needs are, and being proactive and entrepreneurial in terms of helping them to reduce cost or improve service. When Ms. Cobb and I met at the conference, it was a transportation workshop, and she had said to me after the workshop, I think I have some problems with my bid. Would you be willing to look at it? And she said, I think the committee may be awarding the contract this coming Tuesday. And I said, well, in that case, I said, email it to me over the weekend. I'll take a look at it, and I'll get back to you no later than Monday. And I did review it, and I think you have a copy of my recommendation. It's fortunate that you were in a position that you had another option year on your current contract. And it was fortunate that the only bidder that you did have basically level funded his cost for the first year. There were some problems with the bid specification itself. There were some problems that I saw with regard to the process and the timeline that you used to solicit. Typically, the bidding season for transportation starts in the fall, and you want to award in early winter. And the reason you do that in that timeline is that any prospective bidder needs time to come into your community, find a place where he's going to park buses, get a feel for the community, and put together a bid. And that takes some time. The other is that you want a bid cost to build into your subsequent year's budget. And so if you award during the winter, you have that cost for your budget. It's not necessarily an unknown. And so consequently, my recommendation was to reject the bids the one bid that you received, and rebid it, and in the meantime award the option year for the 5th option year to your current contractor. And as I said in my recommendation, as it turns out that the financially it was almost the same amount of money, with the exception that Ms. Cobb had sent me, I think on Monday morning, a copy of the routes that she had done on Versatran. And when we reviewed that against what the contractor was currently providing this year, it was my recommendation that you could eliminate at least 2 buses. And some of it would be reconfiguring some routes and maybe even changing some sizes of buses. But I felt pretty comfortable that you could eliminate 2 buses.
Can I just ask a question to that? The Versatran that we came up with did eliminate 2 buses, so is that accurate of what you're saying?
Yes, yes.
Versatran
Yes.
was accurate in the...
Yes.
Okay, good, thanks.
Having said that, we have a proposal to your business office to have one of my people come out this summer and actually do the routing and scheduling for you for the start of the school year. With the idea of having eliminated those 2 buses. We want to make sure that when the grade advancements are done and your new students coming in, that we're actually able to do that. So.
Okay.
And then we have a subsequent proposal to come in and manage your whole bidding process.
Next year.
We are working in the area. We'll be doing Bridgewater Raynham again for their new contract. We did them now 5 years ago. We'll probably be doing Manchester, Essex, and if you have us do your school district, then we're now looking at doing and coordinating bidding for 3 school districts and looking at close to 100 school buses.
Wow.
That will get the attention of other prospective bidders. When you have a small contract of 14, 15, 16 buses, it's hard to attract competition for contracts that small. But when you start to bundle them in an area where people want to have other contractors want to have a presence, then it becomes there's an economy of scale to attract competition. And that's not to say that your current contractor is not doing a good job. I'm sure he probably is. But that's part of the process that we look at. We look at what your needs are going forward, and we look at trying to create competition to keep the whole process honest and above board.
And is there a rough estimate of cost for your services?
It's
Yes.
on,
Yeah,
it's on second to last page.
Right, I see it. It's 500 per day, not to exceed 10,000.
Correct.
What?
Most of the time, we're under the 10,000.
Yeah.
The reason we have a not to exceed is that oftentimes school committees will have us come out a number of times during the process, and we need to just make sure we cover our expenses.
And would you be using Versatrans?
Yes,
And that would be under our,
I have my own Versatran
Okay.
program, and I have a statewide map. Although we probably will use yours only because your student data is already
It's
loaded
already
into
in there,
yours.
yeah.
any questions?
No, I think it's great. We need the help.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much.
Okay, we're going to move the report of the Assistant Superintendent up.
Thank you. Thank you. First thing on the agenda is looking at getting the committee's approval for the summer math and reading programs. Hopefully you had a chance to look at them. Grades 1 through 1 through 5 pretty much follow the same format. This is I think an improvement over last year in that we are still addressing the skills, but giving families multiple opportunities and ways of doing that. Along with math, same thing, looking a little bit more with the envisions, emphasis there. And students have a lot of choice with how to meet the summer math and reading
So
components.
the email that we were sent, the grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 is for both elementary schools?
Across the district, yes.
Okay, because it
Yep.
only lists the one school.
Yeah, yeah. Okay. Any questions on 1 through 5? Because our elementary principals are sitting there.
They still have their IXL through the summer, correct?
They do, yes.
And they still have their Envision through the summer, correct? Well, we
Yes.
have that until we have the
Yep.
program, right?
Yep.
Is there a way to resend those passwords home so that they get that second? I mean, that was sent home in September, so I think
Yeah.
it would be beneficial if we're buying that program to send home that username and password to use.
Yep, sure, we can arrange that.
Well, the students are going to get these packets, right?
Yep,
So they could get it right with their packet.
they could. They could. I'll trust the elementary administrators to decide how best to get that home. Good, all right.
I just know with my kids,
Yes.
with my kids'
Yep.
computer, I mean, it is what it is in the summertime. So
Right.
to get them to do a worksheet versus it's just,
I know our staffing
Right.
Yeah.
And also to let them know that it is there, just in case it doesn't find its way to the parents
Right.
from point A to point B.
Right.
So that was something that our staff had discussed today.
Right. And,
Great.
and I think it's important to note that, you know, the school offices are open during the summer, and if parents do have a problem, they can call. You know, I wouldn't just show up on any given day, but call ahead, make sure the office is open, and I'm sure there'll be extra copies there as well. With the middle and high school, they are again going with the one school, one book, or in the case of the high school, one theme, two books. But, you know, same sort of setup they had last year. The middle school picking up with assessments, which is run out of, correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. Cameron, WPI. And the high school will be using IXL for their math review. So I would ask the committee to approve the summer math and literacy program.
Looking for a motion?
So moved.
Moved by Jane. Do we have a second?
Second.
Second by Georgette. Discussion?
Yeah, these all look tremendous, they really do. Just curious, what's the expectation in terms of accountability and follow-through once they come back to school in September?
Basically, what happens is they use this as a major point of their quick review, and the whole process is hopefully, if students are, you know, there's an expectation that they do this and that they have reviewed. We do spend a little bit of time when they first come back, but it's far less than it would be if we went through what they did last year. The whole concept is to prevent regression, keeping those skills active, and then we do a very quick review, not the in-depth review we used to do in the past, because there's a lot of work to do, and then move forward using that information.
And I know last year, some of the grades had to turn in mid-year, like midsummer. They had to send something to their, you know, they had to kind of prove they were doing something. I don't know if that's still the case, but.
That was you? Okay, that was
That's still the
Mrs.
case?
Schaefer.
This year,
Potentially.
probably not. I had the kids do it. They wrote a letter to me, so I use it for multiple reasons. I use it for assessment, to see their writing skills, et cetera. And they also practice their book talks off of those and stuff. So I loved it, and then I got to write postcards to the kids over the summer.
Right.
Any other questions? Okay, we have a motion made by Jane, seconded by Georgette. All those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? The ayes have it.
Yeah, I do have to mention that this year's program represents a lot of work, a lot of information based on last year's, our first time out, and significant improvement, I think, in these products. And the choices kids are going to have are going to be fantastic. Moving on to just kind of an end-of-the-year update. Starting off with Google training. As you remember, we did train Google leaders throughout the year. They offered PD, and it basically came under two basic formats. One was during our PD days, in which the people who did that got double PDPs. Then we also had several of our Google leaders offer after-school workshops. When they did that, they did get paid for those hours that they offered those workshops. But between those, that double-pronged approach, the amount of, for lack of a better word, Google-ness is really astounding here in the district. We have raised the comfort level amongst our teaching staff. And, you know, our next step looking at this summer is to bring our trainer back in, Crystal Howe, and really focus in on how to integrate Google into what we normally do in the classroom. So that'll be our next focus for our Google leaders. And that model I intend upon continuing into next year.
Do we ever intend to train or educate or just make familiar these programs to parents?
Probably the next step.
Yeah, probably the next step, I think.
Yeah, could you put together like a Moodle kind of a format or something that could be offered for parents at home or something like that?
Yeah, we could easily, well, the limitation we have is that we have limited our Google network to having a BMR SD
Right.
email.
Yeah.
So, and we are using Google Classroom. So in order to use Google Classroom and have parents have access to that, and that is something that several educators have been talking to Google about, and how do you get that parent communication piece going? Because it's student to teacher right now and not, but that's something as I'm looking at Mr. Gonzalez, might be something we look at. We do have a whole set of videos that we use to train teachers and remind teachers how to do things, and maybe we start putting together a depository via our website, for parents who are interested in following that, or maybe eventually having a Google night.
That'd be
Standard
great.
3.
Yeah, good standard 3. So it is something, I mean, and again, we are still breaking into that comfort
Sure,
level
sure.
with some of our educators, but when I tell people where we were 2 years ago and where we are now using Google, they're pretty amazed at how quickly we've adopted that and made that universally acceptable. And I have to give the leadership team a lot of credit for that, because our principals model using the Google suite with their administrators. Everything from Google Forms, which Mr. Dudek used for doing the surveying and the voting, to Google Classroom for faculty meetings. So all of those pieces are starting to come, and they're coming from the top down and from the bottom up. So kudos to them.
Do we have we gained more Google leaders?
We have not. We've had a couple that have moved out. I have tried to entice certain other people in and invited them. I haven't quite heard if they're going to join the team or not. We're still a pretty healthy team. We still have about 9 or 10 Google leaders and excited technology adopters. We did provide all of them with Chromebooks, so they could get used to that and be able to model that when we get to one-to-one, so they are ahead of the curve. And that's really what we're trying to do. We're trying to create on the ground, train the trainers, in each school and people to go to. And we're lucky we have people that have jumped on board.
Great.
Envisions Math, you've heard me talk before on how well that has gone. And again, I have to compliment the elementary staff for their hard work in this. And there are people in the room who will attest to my almost coming to tears last week when we were talking about assessments, and we're piloting or are piloting the STARS assessment system. And one of our first grade teachers, Mrs. Cody, brought a piece of evidence in, and they were asking, STARS asked a variety of questions much above grade level, and this was first grade. And 3-digit addition is not part of first grade. But this student who was or is a student with an IEP was using the strategies to effectively solve a problem she had not seen before. And that truly is the strength of this program. It teaches problem-solving skills, strategies, and understanding how mathematics works.
So when you say you've seen incredible gains, are you basing that on the STAR? I mean, what are you basing?
We
it
are,
on?
I am
STAR
gating,
assessment,
I am,
just feelings?
I'm feelings. I go through and I do. No, I'm gauging that on observations in the classroom, hearing the math talk, seeing the quality of the math that they are doing in the classroom. When you walk into a first and second grade classroom, they're talking with algebraic terms about balancing equations. We're training them early on to think mathematically and do higher math. And this is not new. Other cultures do this repeatedly, which is why historically we've been a little further behind. But it took a little while for the momentum to build, but I'm pretty confident in saying that we have a faculty that's well behind this program at this point in time.
And has the STAR assessments that have been piloted and done, are they proving your theories
Well, it's
correct?
too soon to tell because we're just looking at a quick, month snapshot. So that's and only with a small segment. We're trying out to see whether that was appropriate at different levels.
And have you noticed any difference in the different grade levels? Because I know as a fifth grade parent, I was probably one of the ones that had many, many concerns in the beginning. It was a huge, huge
Yes.
challenge, and I have nothing to gauge it on. I don't know
Right.
if my daughter's where she should be, or.
Right.
So is there any difference between, say, the kindergartners who are learning it, fresh minds, nothing?
Yeah, I would say that that's an easier transition the lower you go. Fifth grade would probably has had the biggest transition, but reports from the fifth grade teachers, and I think Mrs. Brown can back me up on this, is that the quality of what they're able to do is far beyond what they've done in the past. And anytime you implement a new program, if you have 12 things to get through, you usually only get through 10 in the first year, which is why it's really important that we follow that program up with a good, solid program for sixth grade going forward.
And I think you'll have more data next year.
Right.
from the teachers. I know being a fifth grade teacher, I know fractions, the difference between fourth and fifth when we moved into Envision, and this was about 3 or 4 years ago. The difference of what the kids know and how fast you can move past like reinforcement.
Right.
Is a difference. I also noticed with my second grader, what he's doing in relation to what I'm teaching in fifth grade. And so there's definitely a correlation vertically with the program. So there are gaps, but vertically, there is definitely improvement, but you only see that after so many years.
Right.
But definitely the first year I saw a difference, especially with the fractions, but I can only speak to fifth
You know, and to be completely forthcoming, you know, there is no perfect program, and there's
Right.
certain things, like Envision does not spend any time with math and money.
Right.
So we need to develop units around math and money, and when is that appropriate? But you can't have those conversations until people are really comfortable with the program.
And we're just doing that this year, and
Right.
we're in year 4.
Right, so we need to look at that, for next year, start looking at that and what units, and it would obviously come in after we do decimals and place values, and the difference being that certain coins represent certain amounts of decimals and pieces, but, so, and really knowing the program, so that's gonna be part of next year's discussion. Professional development, we had a very good year with that, all sorts of training, a lot of it based by the experts in our own district. One thing that we did do this year, there's a new requirement for people getting certified starting July 1, where they have to have at least 15 PDPs, professional development points, in meeting the needs of diverse learners, and 15 professional development points in sheltered English immersion. So that's a minimum. This past year, we offered courses in district for both of those, one of which was an outside consultant that we brought in. That she did one day was one of our PD days, and then a Saturday a couple weeks later, and they had to do a project. And then we had one of our special ed chairs do a meeting the needs of diverse learners class that is finishing up. Presently, people are working on their projects. But that's to meet, requirements for people for certification. So that's been another huge piece. ELL, as you know, our English language population is up at about 75 right now. That is a significant growth. I have to kind of let you know that is right. We're about as stretched as far as we can go, and that can either go one in two directions. Some people can move out and other people can move in. You could have a few people move in with significant lower level English language skills and need increased time, but we're pretty much stretched to the max. The good news is that the ELL teachers have done a tremendous job this year, and our Witter scores show an incredible amount of growth.
And what does that mean?
That means that they are acquiring English language.
No, I mean, what does WITA stand for? Sorry.
Oh, jeez.
Loretta, do you know?
Witta.
You're Googling it?
You're
Okay.
Googling it? It's a consortium, that does, I don't remember what the actual acronym stands for. I'm sorry.
I mean, to a
Right.
lay person, it just sits there like, well,
Yeah.
those scores are, but what are they?
Yep.
Or what do they measure? What
Well,
do measure?
they measure the ability of the student to read and use the English language. And they go all the way from 1 down to 6, and 6 being,
Oh, like the ELL classes.
right. And, when you get to 6, you monitor them for a couple years and then hopefully transition them out of the program. But in every single case, we've seen at least one level, if not 2 levels of growth with our
Great.
students. So, Mrs. Schaefer,
World-class instructional design and assessment.
there you go.
We had the world in the assessment.
You had the worldly assessments. So, and that's a credit to our ESL teachers and the work that they've done and the cooperation they have had with each other. Curriculum mapping, the initial pass at our curriculum map is done, and what that means is that we have our scope and sequence, so we have what is taught when and what standards are addressed. In some cases, for instance, in Envision Math, because essential questions are part of the program, those are also in the maps. Next year, we are going to go back, revisit those. We need to add to them. The intent is to add understanding by design training for all of our staff, perhaps hopefully in October on our October PD day. and then from there build in essential questions and essential understandings, and being able to decide what we're going to be measuring to see if kids have reached those. So that's kind of stage 2 for next year. New science standards, you've heard me talk about the new science standards. In the middle school, we have already sat down and started to sketch out how we would address these new standards at the middle school. Today, 2 middle school teachers and 2 elementary school teachers were at a workshop provided by the Department of Ed on the new science standards. They are drastically different. They are about higher order thinking. They are about inquiry. It is going to take a good amount of work to get that done, to get that sketched out, and it is going to require a significant change in materials, and in some cases, for instance, the high school facilities to meet these standards. So, and, you know, as I said to our teachers today, we have the talent in this room. It's having the resources to get it done. And that is, and, you know, the excitement about this work, but the trepidation about having the materials and having the time to put it together was something they were worried about. So that's something we definitely need to work together on. We're into the 3rd and final year of training for our literacy program. The K through 2 will be finishing up with Teachers for Teachers next year. At this point, we have a well-established literacy program. We have some incredible book rooms. In fact, the book room at JFK and AFM, the Teachers for Teachers are using as a model for other districts. And, you know, the consultants came in to help map our ELA standards moving forward, and we have a continuum in our literacy training. Moving forward, the next piece will be, you know, next year researching writing programs, so that'll be the next piece. But, you know, we can't do everything at once, so next year we'll be looking at science, and then the year after that we'll be looking to get a prescribed writing curriculum into the elementary school as well. Our mentor program, this past year we increased the rigor of our inducting and mentoring program. We still have a little ways to go, but I think that, but this year we had an improved entry for our new teachers into the district. Mentoring had improved the amount of information because we expanded our induction program from 1 day to 2 days and followed that up with quarterly meetings as well to try and get people on board and up to speed. But that we are looking at this past year's program, have done an assessment, and we're going to be making some tweaks going forward. And the hope is that every new teacher has every bit of training they need to be successful from day one. And that's our report.
Great. Questions?
Just a quick thing. We all know, people at this table know we've been trimming our budget. What has been negatively impacted or just impacted in general in terms of curriculum going forward?
Well, I think I was a little realistic going forward, where we're only looking at doing one grade of math at the middle school. You know, if we had, you know, a fantastic budget, we might be looking at writing for this year as opposed to putting it off a year. And again, so that's pretty much it. Perhaps, I'm looking at 1 stage for next year for curriculum mapping instead of 2 stages. But I don't think that that's unreasonable based on the amount of time that we have to look. But there's definitely materials we could be purchasing and improving upon. But science materials, for instance, teachers in the district will tell you right now that they go out and they buy a lot of their own science supplies. And that's not what they should be doing. So those are things we need to work on.
And then the Chromebooks, what did we originally start from and then go down?
We were looking at grades 8, 9, and 10. Right now we are at just grades 9 and 10. Which is kind of a shame because the 8th grade teachers here, the amount of training for Google is pretty awesome, and they would really integrate it. But, it is what it is.
And certainly just the cost of implementing the materials to meet the science standards is significant.
Right.
And well into six figures. And we are going to have to plan for it and be able to get everybody to understand that it is an absolute necessity. It's not a nice to have.
Right. And honestly, we should be buying some of the instruments
No.
now. You know, you can always move a microscope or a triple beam balance from one grade to the next. But starting to purchase them now would have been, a nice thing to be able to do.
Just
And I'm sure if Bill was here, he would be saying, the high school math labs are.
Yeah.
Yeah, and-
Is there a point in
I'm
those
sorry,
science
science
standards
labs,
at which we lose certification, or we lose, I mean, is there a date tied to when schools have to meet those, or?
Next year is a ramp-up year, and the next year you're supposed to be implementing
Supposed to
them,
be in it, right.
starting that process. My concern, and I'll be honest, they really are not focusing on the high school yet, because they really need to figure out there's the whole competency determination piece that has to be figured out first before they start designing the curriculum around it. I mean, it's sketched out at this point, but the main push is to implement, K through 8. High school will be a year out, but my concern, and again, it's a gut feeling, we would be hard pressed to do the inquiry-based science that needs to be done at BMR High School with the labs that we have.
Right.
So that's something that needs to be addressed.
And that certainly, to Jane's point, was outlined in the NEASC report.
Correct.
The deficiencies in the physical plant and the short-term immediate needs to upgrade, to be able to teach what we need to teach and to retain students and be competitive.
Right. And it needs to be
It all
done.
goes hand in hand.
Right, and you need to be able to teach science, but you need to be able to do it safely. Okay, Mr. Dudek, we have one science lab that has gas chests at work?
That is correct.
All right, and how many?
9 chemistry classes.
Right.
Scheduled for next year.
Right, and
One lab with gas.
right, and how many working hoods do we have? Maybe one?
We have a few.
Right,
The gas, I think, is the biggest one.
yeah, right. So, it is definitely an issue that we need to start looking at in order to be able to meet the standards. And, and I jokingly tell, the math and science teachers, well, there's a lot of pressure on you because the jobs of the future revolve around you and your work. But that is,
That's it.
that is the truth. It's math, science, engineering, STEM, all those things. And, do we have, we were talking with the elementary teachers today at the conference, and, it would be great if we had, a science, technology, engineering, a STEM class as a special in the elementary school.
Agreed.
Okay, and those are three of the first positions that we were going to add that we had to cut. Am I correct, Mr. Himmelberg?
You are correct.
Right,
And the
right.
interest is there. We know Ms. Cardy, the third grade teacher at JFK AFM, offered a club for third, fourth, and fifth grade. She had over 40 students per session that wanted to get into each one.
Yeah,
That
yeah. No, children have a natural interest, and inquiry is a fun way to learn things, and it's the way that we need. It's that higher order thinking, it's that figuring things out, it's that solving problems. That's what future jobs are going to be about.
Yep.
And we offer that, I believe, at the middle school during February break.
Yep.
And it's well attended.
Yep.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Yeah, if I could just, the staff here is absolutely incredible. They're very dedicated. They work very hard, and we're very lucky to have them. And again, it's not about talent; it's about resources, and making sure they have the resources they need.
Okay, moving on to the report of the superintendent. We are going to go through the end-of-the-year reports. Jean Sheridan, Food Service Director, Wen Cobb, Business and financial update, Osiris, technology, and Loretta for a special ed update.
So welcome, and please join us up at the front at the mic.
Cyrus tells me I'm coming on the TV, but I don't think I failed my Google lesson, Osiris. We're doing this over the air for
we are.
some reason, so I've never done this before.
No pressure.
How do I move the slides?
Just the arrow.
I didn't get to this level, but we do.
You and me both.
Flip right.
Okay, perfect.
You guys see it?
Yep.
We have.
We'll see how
papers, so.
technically challenged we are. I think it's again been a good year in school nutrition. We've got a staff that by all means excels in many ways. You guys all do know that this year I was selected as Regional School Nutrition Director of the Year, which puts Blackstone Millville in the top 5 districts across the country for having food service excellence. So I think it's very much kudos to our group to be in that thing. When we talk about the end of the year and highlights, I mean, if you had ever thought school nutrition would get me to present at Harvard, I would never have believed you. So there I am at Harvard presenting on quality food service programs using us as a model. As importantly, or more importantly to what I do, is the staff. We've got a staff who, everybody in that picture has been with us for the entire 7 years that I've been there. Laura Reyes at the bottom is the brains, because you know that I share a position with Acushnet. So she's the day in, day out person taking care of all of business. When I heard Dr. Thompson talking today about professional standards, they have now come to the food service industry also. We have requirements that all staff be professionally trained. On the hourly level, it's 6 hours per year. Our cooks are required to take 12 hours, and I'm required to take 24. In the past year, we had 3 of our managers became certified in school nutrition. Again, that's taking the extra step. They took the courses at home, they took the courses online, so kudos to all of them. What I love best, again, besides feeding kids, is how we do look at our staff. And Patty Rodriguez up at Millville Elementary School was nominated and won for Super Lunch Hero. If you know the book series, and she just goes above and beyond in how she takes care of our kids. The other thing that we do as a program is we give back to the community. That picture is with Mr. Cameron. We were asked to speak before the Superintendent's Committee on Successful Breakfast Models at Gillette Stadium. Top Making It Count is the UMass School Nutrition Training website, and we are one of their primary video sites. So when they're filming, they're here doing the filming. So if you ever get really bored on a Saturday night, you can go to Making It Count and see HeartNet featured all over the place. Again, in celebrations, we've got a great breakfast program. These were there's only about 20 people in that room, in that picture, who were recognized for meeting all of the breakfast goals for increasing breakfast participation. And again, right front and center is Rachel Oliveira from HeartNet, who has really championed breakfast here. We're in the schools all the time. If you see that, this year during National School Breakfast Week, Mr. Himmelberger comes out and cooks breakfast for the kids.
Breakfast counts were way up that day.
They
Yes,
were-
absolutely.
And they spoke highly of it.
That was an art contest where we entered into a national contest with the School Nutrition Association. The staff chose winners, and he cooks breakfast for the winners, so we did that at all of our elementary schools. We continue to do Taste a Rainbow as an offering to both all kindergarten and first grade teachers. We sample in general. We've got funds from the Dairy Council for trying something healthy. This happened to be something ridiculous like sweet potato smoothies or something. But, you know, we're getting the kids to do the colors, eat the vegetables, see that healthy food is exciting. And that's, as far as my presentation there. The nice part, as we come to the end of the year, there is another one. I knew I always save the best for last. For this year, we've served 180,000 school lunches and 32,000 school breakfasts, which is phenomenal. Of note is when I came on board 7 years ago, our free and reduced population was 19%. It's now at 33%. Part of that is actual demographic changes, and part of it is much better reporting with the state in terms of how we're picking up kids. So it's much more automated. That way, as you look at food service in Blackstone, we are fully self-funded. So if we're doing these exciting and wonderful things, it's because we're funding them either through grants or what we can afford. Kudos to our program. Most of my peers don't absorb their benefit costs, and we as a program do, and still return money to the district. This year, we've spent $19,000 on new equipment. That was primarily for some ovens at the high school and new serving lines at Millville. And we've spent $11,000 in repairs. So we're trying to chip away at getting into preventive maintenance and not getting stuck with the big hits. And we had a full coordinated DESE program review, and we aced it. There were no findings at all of note. It was, somebody didn't sign an application was about as far as she got with us. So that's food service. We're thrilled to be here. We love what we do for the kids, and I don't know if you have any questions for me or.
Well, a couple comments and questions, because you know me, I always do. But first of all, I've had the privilege of having several meals this year, and they've been wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. And I do know your staff goes well above and beyond and does special things that we've requested, special breakfasts, and we've had lots of dinners, and they've been just beyond fabulous. I'm just curious, the guidelines that came into place, I don't even know how many years ago now, but the whole kind of no junk food.
2010.
Yeah, there you go. No junk food, is that an elementary school thing? Or, because my daughter came to the middle school day, and she's like, you should see the food they get to eat, and the pizza was really good, and and then we were at JFK, and there was ice cream, but the Millville kids don't have ice cream. It's like, have they changed? Are those guidelines the same across the district, or?
The guidelines have not changed.
Okay.
There was a blip right after they were approved by the state as part of the Healthy Hunger Free Kids Act, where the state rolled back the fundraising piece. So the law was very strict, and then the state of Massachusetts sort of opened the cover a little bit. So there is leeway that different schools are doing different things as a group. That may be something we need to look at next year. But so they're not breaking the law,
Gotcha.
but there are different standards
The way they're
across the
reading.
district, and how that handles. We can't sell anything during the school day that isn't healthy,
Right.
but it doesn't sort of gather to what people are bringing in.
Well, yeah. Okay. But so is the ice cream being sold at JFK is considered healthy?
They,
Okay.
whole wheat, ice cream sandwiches with whole wheat wafers, it barely qualifies as ice cream. It's reduced fat. We have calorie standards, we have fat standards.
And they're still all the
It
same.
tastes good, if it's hot, it tastes good.
If you think
It's really ice cream, Jane.
Yeah.
There go our sales.
So yes, we don't sell anything, that
That
doesn't meet the
those
standards.
Okay.
It's the extra stuff that's a
And
little
that's
bit
true in
grayer.
the middle school and high school too?
Absolutely.
Well, she loved whatever you fed them, Justin, she loved it.
My kindergartners did too. They did? Oh, yes, they did. I actually have a question.
No, I was just going to comment and say that after that tour, when I asked my daughter what the best part was, she said the food at the middle
The
school.
food,
So, yeah,
the
the food,
food,
that's all.
yes,
yeah.
the food.
As it should be. They get more options the older they get.
Is that what it is? Oh, that could be.
Technically.
Oh.
I just have one question. One of our former committee members talked about the surplus, and I'm just following up with that same question about the surplus, and has anything been sold, given away?
We have sold one unit at the Millville Elementary School. My great dream of value, you know, you look at this brand-new dish machine that's never been turned on at the middle school, and you think, my God, you know, it's got to have value to somebody, or at least scrap. We went through the process, we put it out to 3 different vendors, said, what is the value of this machine? What is the value of the 60-quart mixer that's never been turned on? The reality is they're 480-volt units, and they have no value. So my dream got crushed. We have gotten rid of one piece of equipment, and everything else is standing right where it is. And, you know, this was my year to try, and you know, Millville was looking for storage space, and they will never use their dish machine again, but that's it.
Any other questions?
Yeah, the one thing that leaps out at me is the second bullet up there. Free and reduced is 33%, 19% 5 years ago. Is that 33% of the meals that you put out?
No,
free and reduced students?
33% of our population qualify
so that's
for free
more
and reduced
demographics
benefits.
then.
Yes,
Okay.
yeah.
Which I know that drives lots of different numbers in the whole school budget, so.
Absolutely.
Good for you
Once-
for reaching and finding those
Right.
kids.
Once you go over 25%, you get a whole new
Exactly.
level of what you can look for. So,
Yep.
you know, it helps us with grants and other things.
So, yeah, so that figure right there has got a lot of impact.
Absolutely.
It really does. So that was great that you pulled those kids out of the weeds. I don't know what you did, but you found them. Good job. 'Cause
Thank you.
That drives a lot.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, let's talk about numbers. What I'm going to present is a snapshot.
Sorry.
Louder, okay.
Just a little bit.
Okay. It's a snapshot of the finance status and some business operation updates. Let's look at the expenditure status first. After the first 4 pages, we'll find the attachment A, which is the expenditure ledger summary as of June 9th. And if you look at the second page of attachment A, the final number is about 18,000. It is not the final number, and it has changed since. In the next 2 to 3 weeks, we're going to watch the numbers very closely on a daily basis. The projection is we're going to finish the school year on budget. The areas where the surplus and deficit are won't change. It will continue to be instruction and special education out of district placement. So we will need to move the budget among lines on July 11th. Any question about expenditures? Attachment B is revenue. As of now, we've received all the town assessment and most of the state revenues, and we anticipate we will receive the last payment of Chapter 70 and the other half of transportation reimbursement by the end of the year. Question about revenue? Special education transportation, second page. Firstly, out-of-district transportation cost was budgeted to be than this year. That's because we joined the Bico Transportation Network, which enable us to share the ridership with our neighboring towns. And addition to that, Mr. Himmelberger did a wonderful sales job to rent 3 more BMR classrooms to Bico, which not only bring us more rental revenue, but will reduce the cost of transportation.
Do
And
you have an approximate number for roughly how much revenue did that generate, the 3 classrooms?
right now, the
In the high
revenue
school?
is 33,000, and we're seeing double the revenue next year.
Is it classrooms in the high school?
One is the high school and 2 are at Millville. So we're going to have 2 large classrooms at the high school and 2 classrooms upstairs at Millville.
So that is 33 more, or now that it's up to 33?
33 now, and we'll have 33 more, depending on the square foot.
Okay.
We're going to measure it. And Loretta and I will meet with Vanpool next week, I think next Thursday. And we're going to talk about summer transportation out of district in detail, and that will give us the opportunity to test and adjust the routes for the coming school year.
For out of district.
Out of district, correct.
Are we still using, we've reduced the number of out of district,
Placement,
no,
Vendors?
yes.
yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
Vanpool will be the single vendor.
That'll be the single one?
Yep.
Okay.
For in-district transportation, we purchased a wheelchair van. It is a 5-year lease to purchase, a Ford Transmit 350 with 1 wheelchair system plus 6 seats. If you look at attachment C, you can see the floor plan and the price. We were awarded grant from Ford, so that's $7,800 less of the price, and our monthly payment will be $839 for the leasing. And we will have BMR lettering on the van.
The side.
Looks good. So from page 2 of the report.
So
Yeah.
in this van, just
Mm.
one wheelchair fits in the van?
We can add more, up to 3 in the
Up to
future
3,
if
okay.
needed.
Okay.
It's gonna be 700 for the wheelchair system.
Okay.
And just to put that in perspective, how many wheelchair students do we currently have?
Just
It-
one.
Yeah, so we're meeting what we need, so that's
Just
great.
one in the whole, no.
The one
For
that,
two chairs.
the one that we transport.
One that we transport, we have 3 in the district.
Yeah,
So we'll have other students coming up.
okay.
You can see the breakdown of the yearly cost. So the yearly cost will be about 15,000 compared to the current year wheelchair service, 50,000. We save about 35,000.
Well, I have a question about that. Well, I saw that too, but where is that? Because I saw that, but I didn't understand.
Oh, on page 2 of the report. At the bottom. Below the
Well,
pictures.
the savings of 30, like, the
Oh.
cost of it, the original
Yeah,
cost
but-
of it, the,
Original cost.
with the grant.
But
and then-
but it'll cost 15,000 annually, whatever.
Mm.
And that includes the driver?
Yes.
All right.
We have a driver for the red van, so he's gonna drive this van.
The new van,
But we include the overtime for him.
right.
In that 14.9?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, so
On the bottom.
the overtime's
Oh, yeah, there
2,000
is.
of that,
Yeah.
so, yeah,
The regular salaries
Yeah.
and the budget somewhere else.
yeah.
Yes.
So this
Because
past
we
year.
already had one? We
Past year
already had a
again,
driver?
we're spending 50,000 this year, and we're replicating that next year with our own van for 15.
Yes.
Great.
And after 5 years, we will own that
Own the
van.
van.
Yeah. Yeah.
Regular day transportation, we propose the 50 years extension to the current contract with 3 less routes based on the actual ridership. And Mr. LeBrie did a
His
great
presentation.
job
Do we have to vote? Do we have to,
Do we have to vote for what?
on accepting his proposal and doing the 5th year, or do we just do it?
Yeah, the school committee
We have
would
to
need
vote.
to, either this meeting or the next meeting, vote to accept the 5th year.
Yeah, can we do that?
Sure.
It's, I believe, is it on the agenda? I believe it's just the discussion, so I
Yeah.
think it needs to be put on the
the
agenda
agenda for the
before we
next
can make
meeting.
a motion like that. So we can put it on
That's
the.
my question.
Yeah, we can put
Yes.
it on the next agenda.
The next agenda?
Yeah.
We did 2 health insurance renew this year. Senior supplemental plan, AKA MedX and Managed Blue, was renewed for January with 6.3% increase. And the active employee plan was renewed for July. The current PPO and HMO was increased by 7.16% with change, and 5.8% with change. We had multiple meetings with the IAC, and we have a new customized plan with 1.8% change increase from the current HMO. And during the open enrollment in July, we have 5 employees switch to the new plan. And hopefully next year we will have more, once everybody knows more about it. And overall, we're seeing a 6% increase on district share premium.
So just for the people at home, our health insurance has averaged gone up 6%. So correct?
Yes.
The portion
that's
we
our
pay.
So we
estimate.
have to support that in our budget of
Correct.
6%.
It is in the budget.
I just wanted the people
Okay.
at home to know why our budget is
Mhm.
the budget. And I think a big part of it is because we have to support our health insurance by 5.8 or 6%.
Yes.
Thank you.
Can you translate that to dollars rather than percentages?
It's 154,000.
Okay. So the health insurance increase this year is 154,000.
Yes.
Okay.
Dental insurance and life insurance are both locked for another year. And we also launched 2 wellness programs. Hopefully we have healthier employees, which will benefit the district long run. Capital
We're
project.
also offering the savings program. Are we gonna do that next year?
Oh, yes, thank you.
The-
Yes, we're going to offer flexible spending
Flexible
accounts
spending.
in October.
Okay.
High school roof project and Millville roof project are in the phase of closing out still. The reasons are, there are a lot of construction issues and budget revision and document correction when we close out the project. And the 2 people who were directly involved in the project left their position, so it made it harder to communicate with our project managers and the contractors and MSBA. And also MSBA is understaffed. I think they're down to 2 auditors right now, and they're behind their schedule. So therefore, we still doing rollovers. We had 3 band rollovers last year. 2 of the 3 times the interest was picked up by the project manager and the contractor. Our financial advisor from Unibank recommends that the district reduce the amount of outstanding bands and issue another short-term note next year. So they will put together a finance scenario plan by hopefully the beginning of July.
So, so we have to issue another extension notice? Is that what you're saying?
It is a new note.
Okay.
Our current note is 946,000, and we're going to issue another smaller one.
So,
To complete these projects.
Yeah.
so 2 out of the 3 times, the interest was picked up by the general contractor. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so if we issue another note, is that to prevent the district picking up that interest, or?
The interest will be less. But it is too expensive to do a long-term bond. So Unibank basically saying it's better to have a short-term note. But as we close out the both of the roof project, we can pay them off. Last but not least, the budget. We're going to discuss the budget later.
Later.
Yeah. And our auditor is wrapping up the audit for year 15, and hopefully we'll see the report by the end of July. More to come. In the next few weeks, we're going to work on the fiscal close, and Mr. Aggard, our accountant, will come to BMR towards the end of July to help us close. And the end of year report to DOR and DESI will both be finished by September 30th. And student activity, from what I heard, we've never done an audit for student activity. Correct me if I'm wrong. It can be a big issue. So in summer and in fall, we'll work on the student activity policies and procedures, and we plan to do a review the first year and do the audit the next year. And business office policies and procedure, we business office staff as a team, we are working on it since I started. So into year 17, there will be more streamlined. I mean, business office staffs are working their best to serve the district, and they embrace changes, and they do cross-training to each other. So we're going to the right direction. You just need to have more policies and procedures in place in writing. And that's it. Any questions?
Thank you.
Good evening.
Good evening.
So I want to talk to you about the state of BMR SD technology and where we're at. I apologize for maybe my voice. I'm coming off of a bad cold and kind of stuffed. We're in the final phases of our wireless project, as you guys have is the memo. The last piece that we have to do now is just turn on the wireless access points. We didn't turn them on during the school year only because in order to do that, we'd have to take down the wireless that's in the buildings now. In order to do that, it would take about a day to a day and a half per building to get all of the wireless access points modulated to the right frequency, and we did not by any means wanted to do that per school during their productivity time. So June 22nd, when everyone leaves the buildings, is when we start our process and we get everything up and running. But we're very excited to have this new wireless frequency turned on, and we'll be able to maximize it to the best of our ability. Also, we've upgraded all of the, the 3 major computer labs here in the middle school with thin clients. We took out some older computers and we did thin clients, which has drastically brought down our help desk tickets, and that what model we'll also be doing at the high school. And we now have about 86 computer desktops that we have that we can use throughout our district, and we also have, through the nice contributions of another school district, we have about 55 different monitors that we can use. So that's going to, for the time being, allow us to save some money without having to purchase new equipment, which is going to be a bonus for us in the coming year. Also, we've been replacing some of our older server hardware. My colleague and I have been diligently replacing parts, and it got to a point where I said, enough is enough. We can't be replacing old computer parts with new computer parts because they will continue to die. So we bought newer servers. We've been virtualizing everything, which allows us now to create new servers in a virtual sense in the event that we have web applications that we need to have up and running in a short period of time, i.e. Versatrans. When Mrs. Cobb asked us to get the Versatrans applications running, rather than installing that on one of our older servers that could at any point in time just die, we put it on our new server, and it's been running flawlessly ever since. And we could do that now throughout the middle school and the high school. Our elementary school servers are still pretty good. We can hold off from an expensive purchase. They are ranging anywhere between $600 to $7,500 a unit. So for our elementary schools, we're pretty stable there for now. I've been meeting with a couple of companies, some vendors, and planning just the construction of our fiber ring. That is something that I've been investigating and I would like to continue to pursue in the upcoming year. Maybe even have this ready as a presentation for the superintendent and the assistant superintendent in the year 2017-18, if that's something that we would like to pursue. I'm going to put off pushing that project next year only because we have some other my office has some other responsibilities I want to make sure we have a good handle on before we take on another big project. That will be a massive project, a massive undertaking, and I don't want to cut any corners in that project. But we are talking with vendors as far as surveying the land, the light poles, because we would have to either lease those out from the city, or if we lease out the fiber ring, another company will have to do that for us. So there are different options that we're investigating. I just want to make sure we do the proper option for our district. Are we either going to own the fiber ring ourselves, which would be great, but it is a massive undertaking, or do we lease it out and then let someone else deal with the quote-unquote headaches, and we just enjoy the benefits of it? Once that fiber ring has been built out, depending on the recommendations that I have approval from the assistant superintendent and the superintendent, then we'll be moving over to our VoIP phone system, a voice over IP phone system. Nationally, there is a cost savings of about 40% on your average phone bill on a corporate level. So I know that there is significant cost savings to be had here once we have implemented that type of phone system here. Right now, we're using the old PBX analog phone systems. In order for us to take full advantage of the voice over IP phone system, it is essential that we have a fiber ring. It's, again, the best way to take advantage of it. We can implement a voice over IP system now, but there would be, because of our firewalls and they're not connected via fiber, it would be a bit of management nightmare, I would say the least. So I would rather make sure that we have everything done correctly in its proper stages before we move on and incorporate something that will bring a lot more difficulty to the technology office. So I'd like to make sure that we have everything done in order. Everything done out of order doesn't work. So, and then we will be purchasing the EduGear Chromebooks. We purchased several of them here for the middle school for one particular classroom, and the price point is $220, and that is including the management console per Chromebook. What I like about our new system going forward, when we do implement the one-to-one, we will be able to give our students the Chromebooks and extend the firewall policies to their homes or wherever they take that Chromebook. So if one of your children goes on vacation and takes their Chromebook, let's say Disney or California, that firewall policy, the restrictions that we have of explicit information, follows that particular Chromebook. So it's a great implementation that we will be able to have with our students. A lot more control on the content that they're viewing on the devices that we provide for them. So, plus these particular Chromebooks, they're very durable. They're made of a hard plastic, rubberized plastic, I should say. So this is a better fit for our students in the event that accidents happen. And this is one of the more kid-friendly models as well. And lastly, for the summer, one of my big to-dos will be fine-tuning our website. I just want to make sure that everything is easy to find. I want to make sure that all the content is up to date, all of the literature is up to date, and that also is a massive undertaking. I will be working with Mrs. Walsh, Bridget Walsh, and also some other key people to make sure that the website is more user-friendly, all of the information is up to date, and also that it is something that everyone as a whole is very happy that we have and we're using it and not making more and more work for ourselves. Any questions?
How many Chromebooks does that equate to? I mean, I know you said we're now to 9th and 10th grade. Are we
Still have
adding any
I
carts?
think, though.
That would be anywhere between $48,000 to $52,000.
No, how many actual
Oh, how many
books?
How many books? There's about 120. Correct me if
Students?
I'm wrong. Ninth graders coming in. So there may be about 120 to 140 kids per class.
Okay. And do we still have carts on our list? Okay.
What grades of the carts? Sorry to ask again.
Well, it's not grades, it's school.
It's schools.
Oh, it's
So
it's
high
schools, that's
school
right.
and-
Yeah, there's two additional carts at the high school.
Each card is about $3,000.
Right. There's one at JFK, we're gonna add another one at JFK, one at Millville, and I wanna say one more at the middle school.
So 2 at the high school, 2 at JFK, 1 in Millville.
Well, no, one more at JFK.
Yeah, 'cause
Right, we
JFK
had
already
one.
has one.
Right, that was from the parents' group, so one.
Basically,
Okay.
trying to get at least one in each building.
Mm-hmm.
We have one here now, although it's not in a cart.
I know we've had a lot of questions and concerns about the website, so I would like to see the progress that was made over the summertime. Maybe have you come back in September or October to share, how user-friendly it was, just so that we can share it with the people at home.
Absolutely.
I know the calendar was one of the questions that we had.
Calendar and finding people by title versus by name, I know was.
Yeah. So I think all the work that you do in the summertime, it would be great to have you come back September or October, just to share with the people at home the progress that was made on the website.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
Yeah.
No, but I know you've been, well, I'm sorry. Go ahead. I was
Go
gonna
ahead,
make a
Jane.
statement, but I'll wait.
This is clearly not my area, even a sliver, but Weren't we talking about somehow partnering with some of the towns, like sharing our internet or sharing our phone or?
Yeah.
The
some
fiber
kind of
optic,
partnership?
the
That was an
ring.
option if we were to buy it outright and own
Yeah.
it.
Okay,
And then once we own it, then we would talk to the towns about jumping on and
Okay.
purchasing bandwidth on our lines.
okay.
But again, that's a very expensive undertaking, and due to where we're at as a district, it may not be the best use of our time and energies until we're at a better state.
Okay.
Jane?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a note of thank you. I mean, I think we've gone leaps and bounds in the time that you have joined us, and I know that you work night and day and vacations and weekends, and I just want you to know it doesn't go unnoticed, and it's much appreciated.
Thank you, thank you.
Any other questions, comments? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay. While we're waiting, just so that people know, we also have Alan's contract in our packet, not for discussion, but for purposes, for those at home. This is all on the website, so I believe Dave's will be coming on the 23rd, but we do have Alan's, so if you want to take a look at it.
Do we have to do anything with, I mean, do we?
No.
No.
Nope.
I read it. Sure. Well,
And I believe this was the ledger that was requested too, the one that we just,
The expenditure.
the expenditure.
And the revenue reports, yeah.
Yeah, the expenditure and the revenue report is also, you can also find that in our packet as well. Just sharing that out for the people at home. Is it easy to find our packets online?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
I just saw them having some. Ready?
I'm ready if you're ready.
Okay,
All right.
let's go.
Good evening. So this is the special education report. It's kind of a recap of the things that occurred this year. We have 4 essential pieces that we're going to cover: the legal issues, the eligibility, the specialized instruction, and then fiscal responsibility. The first piece this year was strengthening the capacity among the team chairs. As you know, we had a new team chair with Annie Romano, and into the year, we lost a team chair, and then we brought on Emily as the team chair also. And so it was really strengthening the capacity of those team chairs. We did some professional development with Margaret Reed. We had a facilitated discussion with myself during a PD day, and we had bi-weekly team chair PLC meetings with myself. We also have a lot of guidance through Murphy, Hesse, Toomey, and Lahane. That's our legal team that we work very closely with. So the legal outcomes for this year are quite impressive. We had 1 mediation. We had 2 students who were sent out of district, and that was a prudent decision based on safety and the well-being of other students. We had 0 PQA complaints. So if you are a teacher and you think about your classroom with 20, 25 kids in it, and you think about how many complaints you may have received this year, think about having 324 students and not having any complaints. That is really impressive.
What does PQA stand for?
PQA is our Program Quality Assurance. It's through the Department of Education. We had 0 corrective actions. And we had 0 hearings before the Bureau of Special Education Appeals.
And how does this number differ from maybe last year or the year? I mean, this sounds great. Is that a continuation, or is this, I mean, these mediations have dropped dramatically? Have they stayed the same?
I would be asking you if that was included in last year's end of the year report.
Not to my knowledge.
I don't think it was.
Yeah.
So, yeah, these numbers in isolation, compared to what?
Yeah.
Same, yeah.
Right. I can assure you, when I speak to my other area directors of special education, these numbers are impressive.
You said it's out of 324 students?
324 students. We are part of cohort 4, and we are mandated to report on some data collection. We had to report on individual student information on each initial evaluation that began during the months of October, November, December of this year, and BMR was in 100% compliance. We had 421 special education team meetings. That resulted in 98 initials. Those are those first meetings that we have. Out of those meetings, 62 students were found eligible.
Just this year?
Just this year.
Is that a high number?
I'll speak to that. We had 31 non-eligible, and we had 40 dismissed from special ed. So if you think of kids meeting their goals and kind of graduating from special ed, 40 of our students graduated from special ed. That's very nice. So Wendy asked, Madam Chair asked if 421 meetings are a lot.
No, 98 initials.
Oh, the 98 initials? I think we could do better. I think we could go a little lower.
62 eligible in 1 year.
62 eligible, that's the one the number.
Incredible.
Is that a lot?
Under the 62 that are eligible in a district this size, based on a bubble that occurred in the complex in the kindergarten, I was a little concerned about that little bubble. Other than that, it was pretty evened out.
So these 62 eligible findings, they are for this academic year?
Yes.
Do they include people who are already on a program?
No.
These are brand new.
Yeah.
Brand new,
They're newly qualified,
newly qualified.
I would think these would be very much skewed towards the lower grades, obviously.
Yes.
Hopefully
But in
they are.
particular, I'm concerned about the JFK kindergarten class. There was a lot that came out of our teachers' concerns.
Current kindergarten or current first grade?
The current kindergarten. But the question, if 421 special education team meetings is a lot, the problem is, our greatest strength is our greatest weakness. We're a very small district, and I tell the team chairs to approach everything like quality customer service. And so when a parent requests a meeting, we provide a meeting. Legally, do we have to provide that meeting? No. We're obligated to 1 meeting a year. But if we have a student that we're concerned about and the parent has a concern, we will reconvene a meeting. And I think that's our greatest strength. In a way, it's one of our weaknesses because it does drive up the teacher out of the classroom, paying for the substitutes, all the processing of the paperwork. It's one of those things we try to balance. What we do try to do is to encourage the parent to speak directly with the classroom teacher and try to resolve it at the classroom level.
But that's 421 meetings across the district.
Across the district.
So what's the total number of, including these eligible findings, what's the total number of, you might have just gave it to us.
324 students on IEPs.
Okay.
Includes
And so-
ECU 62?
So that's 324 meetings right
Right.
there alone.
So that's when you put it in perspective like that, every special ed student has at least 1 annual. So technically, if you subtract 380,
24.
those are
24.
those are the reconvenes.
Those are the reconvenes for,
Which really isn't that.
it's really not that.
Bad number.
It's really, it's
Not a bad
not
number.
that bad, but again, could we do better? There are times where we're sitting in team meetings where we feel as though this really could have been resolved with the classroom teacher and giving that control back to the teacher rather than trumping the teacher, trumping the principal, and going right to a team chair and calling a team meeting.
I just really worry about that 62 eligible findings and that bubble and what we're doing to prevent that from happening again with maybe our incoming or some of them you can't, but I'm sure there's some of them that, dig deeper to.
Yep. The third piece then is our individualized instruction. I know Dr. Thompson talked about the PD development that occurred throughout the district. This is some PD intensive training that was offered to special education teachers through Bridgewater State University, where they really looked at the educational neuroscience, dyslexia, language disorders, really looking at interventions and strategies to help those students. There was another session on integrated reading, also looking at dyscalculia and perspectives and effective interventions for those students, and then again, effective interventions for reading disabilities. We also are strengthening our para capacity, so that way our paras are more of an instructional aid rather than simply a body in the room. And we brought in Ian Howard, Dr. Howard from Fitchburg University, who came in and really helped the paras define the role of the paraprofessional and the diverse job descriptions that they have depending on what level they're at, and facilitated a discussion around acknowledging that there are different perspectives, even among the paras, what their roles and responsibilities are. But one thing they all agreed on, or at least by the end of the day were able to agree on, is that the major role is to facilitate student independence. There are certainly competing demands when you're a para, and especially looking at what your role is if you're in an inclusive classroom or a co-taught classroom. From prompting, from verbal prompting to maybe visual prompting, and self-management strategies. We also brought in the New England Center for Children, and we looked at how to prevent challenging behavior in the classroom, and looking at those supports to develop executive functioning and how to identify behaviors and put positive things into place before they become maladaptive behaviors. Our specialized classrooms include our intensive preschool, our social emotional, our pragmatic learning, our essentials with language-based techniques, our life skills, and our post-grad community-based learning program. So it's a nice continuum. Some building highlights at MES, Writing Without Tears. The expected score in handwriting for the end of the year in kindergarten is 77%. 94% of Maria Obrey's class scored at or above the expectations in handwriting. That was very, very nice. We also have built a new sensory room that is available for all students. And again, that helps with the behavior management piece, focus, concentration.
That's in MES, is the new sensory room?
Yes. At the complex, we did weekly whole group language lessons in the autism classroom, and they did arts and crafts, and they did things with puppets and all sorts of wonderful things to get them to be able to engage and initiate speaking with classmates and one another. And one of the wonderful things that was able to happen this year was that classroom was actually able to go out on a field trip to the zoo. And for some of those students, it was the first time they rode on a bus. This was really big. There was a Doug Flutie grant that covered expenses for a summer program for one of our special needs children, and that child now is enrolled and able to attend summer camp.
Is there a new sensory room or some type of sensory room projected for the complex? That's similar to
At the complex, we already had many of what is already in MES over at the complex. So this was actually to kind of even out so MES would have what the complex has.
Okay, thank you.
And so this was the first year of the
Social-emotional.
social emotional in the complex, and do you see a continued need, an increased need? Does that also need to move? I mean, have one in MES? Where are we with that?
Mm-hmm. I think at the elementary level, we're okay with having it at the complex. Many regional school districts will, pick a building and house a program, unfortunately, because I'm a big proponent that students should go to school in their home area, their neighborhood school. But with competing priorities, we're not able to do that. Will we need to expand the program to a middle school program? We have identified one student who potentially could benefit from a social emotional program. And I just received word this afternoon, we have a 7th grader moving in from an urban area who is currently in a middle school social emotional program.
So unless we have one, that would have to be an outplacement, is that correct?
Or looking at some real intentional behavioral supports put in place.
So right now, there would be currently 2 possible students
Who would benefit.
who could be supported by that care. Now, in 5th or those upper grades, is there potential for that group to be followed soon into a middle school carryover?
The elementary level, we have a few more years before they get there.
Okay, so they're lower
Yeah,
elementary.
Yeah, they are. At the middle school, we have our wonderful PT, Tara, who has started some weekly yoga classes with our students, which we know increases their ability to focus, to behave, and increases their overall academic achievement, and it's going wonderfully. And if you actually go on the BMR YouTube website, you'll be able to play the link and watch the video. It's very sweet. At the high school, all the special education students in the class of 2016 earned their diplomas by meeting both the credit and the MCAS requirements. No alts. That's wonderful. We were able to expand our internships and community experiences, and we partnered with MRC for paid summer internships. We expanded the internships in the community, and Mubezi traveled to France independently with a lot of coaching and prompting from the programs at the high school. And Mubezi's parents have given us permission to speak about him publicly. They're very, very proud of him. And he was also accepted into a college-based program at Mass Bay on a part-time basis in the fall. So, we wonder what happens when they leave us. Here's a wonderful example of a young man who traveled to France. I said before that the parent is engaged in their child's education and is actively participating throughout the special education process. Special education works at full capacity. And so we had joined the director for May breakfast. We had a nice turnout. We had about 11 or 12 parents who are very interested in becoming active in a parent advisory council. And so what we did was we partnered with the Federation for Children with Special Needs and the MassPAC coordinator, Leslie. Both Leslie's are in her name. Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Tim.
Just to bring this one over?
Yeah, this definitely, this should be enough.
Now I'll have two. I never met a microphone I didn't like. But it's talking about special ed anyway. So we partnered with the Federation for Children with Special Needs, Leslie M. Leslie, who is an attorney. She's also the parent of 2 special needs children, and she really works with districts to strengthen their parent advisory councils. And that was actually one of my goals this year, to really look at strengthening the CPAC. We also put out a parent satisfaction survey among our parents. And typically, districts do this every other year. I really believe in doing it every year, just to keep a pulse on what's happening with our parent satisfaction, again, thinking of our parents as consumers. And the parent satisfaction survey really yielded some very nice results. That's in your packet, and the data is in there. But you can see most of the responses are 95, 99, 100% either agreed or strongly agreed. The one place where we had 86 either agreed or strongly agreed was if the parent felt they were given the information they needed to prepare for the meeting. So that's something that we're going to look at to make sure that when parents walk into a meeting, that they really feel like they're geared up with all of the reports and information that they need. And then the fourth and final piece is our fiscal responsibility and sustainability. And that is just making sure that we request all the federal and state grant funding options that are out there. If any of you work on grants, you know that the workbooks are now beginning to open. We've already met one of the workbook deadlines. That was last week. We're going to optimize our circuit breaker claims. Jen and I went out to the Cape last Monday. We spent the day with Jay Sullivan's crew, and we heard straight from the horse's mouth that our circuit breaker was expected to come back at 73% reimbursement, and we'll actually be getting 75% reimbursement, 75%. And that was from Mr. D'Agostino, who gave us that. He went on record. We also will minimize our liability exposures and reduce the need for our out-of-district placements. We're strengthening our specialized instruction, and we're securing cost-saving programs, and that talks about the transportation, again, at BICO. We identified cost-effective procedures, such as the parent portal option for IEPs and the scheduling of team meetings in a systemic way to reduce the dependency on substitute teachers. We're also working very hard on the Medicaid reimbursement, that we're having parents sign those Medicaid forms and dispel any fear that that has anything to do with their own personal insurance. And accurate SIMS coding. We receive our Chapter 70 funds based on our level of need, and there are different codes that go on that level of need. And so Betty and I have worked together, and we're looking at our DOE pages, DOE 34, making sure that our level of need is accurate. So we can optimize as most reimbursement as we're entitled to. Any questions?
I have one. When, I believe you said, and I could be wrong, but we're at a deficit in the area of special ed, correct? Okay, I'm just wondering how it compares from last year to this year. What's the comparison in terms of the deficit, and have we been able to overcome some of that deficit from last year to this year?
For the numbers?
Yeah.
When do you have those numbers?
I can look for the information.
Okay, that'd be great. Any other questions?
How is the co-teaching model being received, and will that be expanded to the other schools, or where do we stand with that?
Well, I think Dr. Thompson said it best the other day when he said, you know, co-teaching in many ways was successful this pilot year. We did have a co-teaching team who had some great concerns about common planning time. But the structure being the way it is, we feel as though there are other ways that teachers can plan besides having to rework the entire building schedule to allow an additional planning time. So, as usual, those who want it to work will make it work.
But
and did.
So will we continue with that model, expand it?
And we'll
or-
continue, and we will also strengthen inclusion.
Any other questions? Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, moving on to public forum. And we will move back up to the discussion of the FY17 budget.
Thank you very much, Madam Chair. I first wanted to thank the leadership team for this evening's presentations. The work that they do and have done this year has been terrific. And as you can see from all of the directors, from Jean Sheridan in food service, making sure that she attracts all of the and tracks all of the folks that qualify for free and reduced, and by her grant pursuits based upon that, to Mrs. Cobb, looking into executing a wheelchair van that will save us significant money each year. To Mr. Gonzalez in his Department of One, which is, I still can't believe they still do it. And the E-rate funding that he has been able to procure for the district, to Mrs. Braverman going in with BICO to reduce our transportation costs. We have looked at and continue to look at every possible opportunity to refine the expenditures within our district and to make sure that we are looking at all efficiencies, from how we buy our electricity to looking at all options that affect how we spend and when we spend and where we spend our resources. So I want to make that very clear and thank the leadership team for all of their efforts this year. We have spent, it seems like an eternity, but it's only been the last 4 months, looking at line by line where we project our FY17 spend. And I know that Mrs. Cobb shares my feeling that each year that we do that, we have a better sense for how we can refine the budget. The school committee took the first preliminary budget and took out $473,712 of reductions that our students need. Then we further reduced the budget by $550,000 to make sure that what we need to spend is affordable. And we are now recertified at a budget of $35,635. That is just over $1 million under what the leadership team projected that our need would be for next year. And we know we have limited resources, but we will continue to look for all revenue opportunities, and we will continue to stretch and be efficient in how we spend. But it is essential to maintain what we have and make sure that we know what we need to be competitive and to meet the requirements of state and local, state and federal mandates. And that is essential. We continue to fight for students, and we have the educational opportunities, I believe, in our pre-K through 12 that all students can thrive and do well with. But to not believe that our students deserve it and not to believe that our students need it is simply not being fair. We right now have a budget that is balanced at $22,035,635. That is the recertified budget amount. And that budget is balanced and will be a challenge to meet all of our needs. And as we know, there are many things that influence the school budget throughout the year, from weather to who moves in and who moves out, to when building systems decide to fail. But I cannot stress to everyone watching and those who will see this later that every penny that this school committee has earmarked is important. There are no frills, there are no extras, there is nothing that our students do not require and need that's in this budget. And I think it's important for folks to watch at home to understand that education today is expensive. And it is incumbent upon us as a leadership team to make sure that we are being efficient with every dollar. And I made this offer last year, and some folks took me up on it, and I will make it again. That if there are questions or areas of concern, to please come and see me or Mrs. Cobb, and we will be happy to take anyone through every line in the budget, every account. We get audited by our own accounting firm, R.H. Brown. We also get audited by the state, and we also get audited by the federal government on our A133. And it is important for folks to know that every penny is accounted for, and every penny is carefully spent. As a brief update, everyone knows that the Blackstone Town Meeting did vote the amount that was recertified in their assessment, in their total assessment. Millville has a special town meeting coming up on Monday, June 27th at 7 o'clock at Millville Elementary School to vote the assessment that will match the recertified number, which is slightly over $1 million less than what was the projected need. As we move forward, we must continue to look for revenue sources, and we must continue to be efficient in our dollars, whether it is partnering with other districts on professional development or looking for public-private partnerships and grant opportunities on a larger scale. We must continue to do this so that our students have the best opportunities to be successful. And that's what it comes down to. This is not about anything else but giving students what they deserve. And even though they don't vote, they are very fortunate that they have a school committee and a leadership team that will do everything possible to make the case for quality education here at BMR. We have a lot of good things going on here. As you heard, Mrs. Sheridan is not only the state's Director of the Year, but one of the top 5 in the country for her work. And our own Mr. Cameron is the middle school Principal of the Year. And we have teachers that have been to the White House and nationally recognized. And they're available on the website. Mr. Gonzalez did set me up for a quick access. So there's a lot of good things going on. There's a lot of exciting things happening within our district. We need to continue to be supportive and to work together. Last Thursday, the 5th grade band from both Blackstone and Millville played together in harmony for an hour and produced excellence. That should be a metaphor for the adults in both communities. Think about that. Together, they produced a tremendous body of work. It happens all the time. We should be setting the example, not following what they show us. So that is where we are. As I mentioned, that $22,035,635 that the school committee has recertified is the amount that we have a balanced budget for. I thank Mrs. Cobb for all of her efforts into the wee hours to get this to work. It is a budget that does not have a lot of room for error, i.e. 3-foot snowfalls, or a dramatic shift in population in or out. So there's much that we continue to monitor every week, but that amount that is recertified is the amount that we must have, and I look forward to the cooperation and certainly fielding the questions from anyone who has them as we move forward. Thank you.
Any questions? Okay. Did I already do public forum? Public forum, seeing as though nobody's here. School committee forum. Jane?
I would like to thank Mr. Arnold and Mr. Ireland for a wonderful fifth grade band concert. I think it shocked even the fifth graders. They went to one rehearsal together of the two schools, and I heard comments of, "Oh, we're going to be bad," and they were wonderful. They were very enjoyable, very polished, and they should be proud of themselves. But those two music instructors in particular should be really proud of the work that they do, since they have to kind of hem and haw to get the students out of classes and find the time to work with them. So it really is impressive. Also, really enjoyed the high school graduation ceremony. I still want to be Griffin Riley in another lifetime. That hasn't changed, and his speech to his classmates moved me tremendously, as did the others from the other folks that were there. The fifth graders also came over here to school, and as did the parents last night, and they're pretty excited to come together and be a group together, and they saw some old friends and made some new friends, and hopefully that transition will be a positive one for all of them, but I know they're counting that down. I don't know that they're looking forward to the summer math packet or the reading, but I do know they're looking forward to that. So I do think there are good things going on here. I do support the efforts of the school and the budget and the needs, and I do hope we see a lot of people at the Millville meeting, and I hope the folks of Millville will understand that I do feel like I was elected to a position from the members of the town to support the students in the district. And we do have needs, and we do see money, and I don't see that as a detriment to the town. I see that as us needing to find a way to work together to continue to achieve the great things that we're doing here in the district. And I do think we need to find how that puzzle works and put the pieces, and we need to communicate, and we need to talk, and we need to kind of stop accusing, I think, and get down to the business of making this. The school budget is a large target. It's easy to target because it's a big, huge number. But the school committee shouldn't be the only one that always has to take the cuts. Other budgets are increasing, and ours need to increase as well.
Thank you. Georgette?
I agree with everything Jane said. And I would also like to tell the teachers and students to have a safe and fun summer. That's all I have.
Thank you. Joanne?
I'm going to ride on your short. Well, Jane. I wanted to correct you, that was Mr. Martins and Mr. Ireland.
Oh, geez.
That's okay. But same thing, it was a great show. I was really impressed. I was expecting to hear a lot of squeaks and various sounds, and they did excellent together. I also, talking about the kids getting together at the parent night last night at the middle school, the first thing all the students did from both towns, I should have even taken a picture, is they all congregated at one table right in the middle. And I agree with Mr. Himmelberger that we can't have this they versus us. It's one district, and that's got to go in that direction.
Thank you. Steve?
Just like to thank Mr. Dudek and Mr. Ducharme and his whole team at the high school for a great week of senior events. Whether it was the awards night, the breakfast the next morning, the graduation, of course. Mrs. Gomes did a great job with the whole senior class. The speakers, Mr. Dudek, Dr. Powers, Eric Eisner, of course. We miss Eric. We like Jack, but we miss Eric. And Andrew Jalbert and Griffin Riley, of course. They did a tremendous job. The graduation was a great night, I thought. And you talk about the two towns coming together. I mean, did you see Blackstone and Millville there? No, you saw BMR there, and it was just a great night. Some of my relatives came from out of town, and they said it was just great. They had never seen like that intimate of a ceremony before, and again, it was great. I mean, the the kids and the families get along great. It's too bad we can't try to mesh the, the powers that be a little bit better. With that being said, I'm looking forward to seeing everyone that cares about the BMR schools, and you're a voter in Millville. June 27th at 7 o'clock, please come out and show your support.
Thank you. Tara?
I guess my comment stems from, I think, each of your comments about the towns coming together. So just, if we'll put the regional agreement amendment back up for discussion, just to decide what we're going to do, where Blackstone did vote yes, Millville had voted no, will we consider bring it back to Millville in the fall? Just
We can add that to the
discussion.
agenda.
Yep.
I believe we have a question outstanding on that for the process of, yep. Is that it?
Yep.
And I would just like to commend the second grade teachers at the JFK for the ocean show that I saw this morning. It was excellent. It was well put together. I'd also like to commend all the students in the National Junior Honor Society at the middle school for making the National Junior Honor Society. It was an excellent event from what I hear, and I want to commend all the teachers and Mr. Cameron for putting on that. And upcoming meetings, we have our June 23rd meeting. If anybody has anything to add to the agenda, please let me know. And then our June 27th Millville Town meeting will be at 7 o'clock. And I believe at our next meeting, on the agenda is the evaluation. We also, I believe we do have to approve the contract.
Yes.
Your contract. And we have on the agenda to put on a motion or on the agenda, the contract for the transportation for the additional year. So far, that's what I have on the agenda. If there's anything else, like I said, just send me an email and we'll add it to the agenda. We will be heading into executive session for union negotiations, not to be returning to open session. So I need
Motion to move to executive session and not return.
Okay, motion made by Jane. Is there a second? Second by Georgette. So we're going to do a roll call. We'll start with Jane.
Aye.
Aye.
Yes.
Yes.
And yes. Meeting adjourned.
Aye, yes, yes, aye, aye, aye.